Tale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namo. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunnavadi Paschatya Desatarine Na Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Sri Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Jam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijacharya Astora Shishimata Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki. Jam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijacharya Astora Shishimata Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki. Anantikoti Vaishnavrind ki. Nam Acharya Salidas Thakur ki. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki. Vrindavan Navadip Dham ki. Ganga Mai Jamuna Mai ki. Bhakti Devi Tulasi Devi ki. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki. Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So today we'll be reading from Harisuri Prabhu's diary in Mayapur, February 21st, 1976. So you could raise questions as we move along, because it's not a very long chapter, and and we can skip some of the things, some of the paragraphs. Early in the morning, Srila Prabhupada called for Achyutananda and Hridayananda Swamis and requested them to go to the Goswami Math to speak on his behalf. He told them to invite their devotees to come with us and preach from village to village. Since we have the finances and they know the language, it could be a very successful combination. Such a united preaching effort would benefit everyone. ISKCON, the Gaudiya Math, and the general public. He said to tell them that if there is a problem with the management of their temple, we shall provide all the finance necessary. They have only to come preach with us. So that we'll just make some comments on this paragraph, is that Srila Prabhupada was a very broad-minded person, and despite several attempts to get his god brothers to cooperate, he still didn't give up even up till 1976. I was thinking that the Gaudiya Math is one of the branches of the Chaitanya tree, and also ISKCON. And Srila Prabhupada formed ISKCON that is managed under the GBC. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wanted the management to be controlled by the GBC. He had that idea, and somehow Srila Prabhupada followed that, and the reason why he formed ISKCON is because they wanted to have their own mats. So therefore we have like the Goswami Math, the Chaitanya Math. There's different maths. And but the Gaudiya Math is a bona fide institution, formed by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And we may find there's differences in their practices, the number of rounds they chant. Some of them chant 4 rounds, some of them chant 8 rounds, some 16, or some chant 64 rounds. Just before, one of my friends, who was sannyasi, he left this world, and he was chanting 64 rounds a day, every day. Before he left, he was from the Gaudiya Math. And they may have their different practices, but whatever is left by the Acharya, and if they follow the principles, rules and regulations left by the Acharya, then they can also go back to Godhead. It's not that, when we meet them, we say, well, oh, you chanting 4 rounds and we chanting 16 rounds. And even during Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time, there were, he saw things differently. Some were very engaged in devotional service, and they may have chanted not many rounds a day. And but the way Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur saw it, that they were engaged in service, so it was considered to be like 64 rounds. So, but we follow. Srila Prabhupada, and following Srila Prabhupada, we're meant to chant 16 rounds a day. If we take initiation, we're meant to chant 16 rounds a day. So like that, Srila Prabhupada was a very broad-minded person, and he wanted to help because he felt that he had to cooperate with them to preach, using the skills of the local Bengali people. They could speak the language, and the Americans, Prabhupada had the finances, and they could cooperate and preach. So that's what is in the first paragraph. Those points came up. He observed that none of them are preaching, rather they are simply begging for money to support their temples. They have no preaching potency, and their forces are dwindling. So why should they not join us? So, for preaching you have to have some potency, and that potency comes from the following of the process as given by the Acharyas. Getting up in the morning, coming for Mangala Arati, chanting Hare Krishna, reading the books, hearing the classes. The potency comes from that, following the process. Reading on. On his walk, he discussed the idea further, stressing that money is no problem. They simply have to come and preach with us. Hidayananda Maharaj mentioned that before Prabhupada went to the West, Indians were not interested in his message, but now that he has money, they are willing to listen. Prabhupada agreed. Money is the strength all over the world. America is prestigious. Why? They have got money. So I have got American disciples. Why shall I not have money? If a guru of the American remains poor, it is contradictory. So, money, you need this. And Prabhupada studied economics and you must have land, labor, capital and organization. Those 4 things are required. He himself mentioned that. So, he had the land, he had capital, he had organization, and he had the finance. So he was very intelligent. But then reading on the next paragraph, his emissaries returned later in the day without any immediate response from the Gaudiya Math members. But in the evening, a few men from the Math came to discuss his offer. Lately, Prabhupada has been sitting out on the large lawn at the side of the temple in the early evening, and he received them there. Several of them were favorable, provided something could be worked out about looking after their Math. It would be a wonderful step toward a unified preaching effort if they agreed to do it. It may indicate the beginning of a full merger with all the Maths over the next few years. So this is quite interesting. Generally when we're putting up a project or building a temple, various factors has to be taken into account. But one of the factors is important to see whether you can maintain it. And therefore sometimes we build temples and then we have problems maintaining them. We don't have sufficient manpower. We may leave one aspect out, like we may leave out resources or manpower, labor, like what you said, land, labor, capital, and organization. So that is required, for establishing a temple and running a temple efficiently. So you can see that they were struggling, but Prabhupada still wanted to help them. Thinking of his Guru Maharaj and they being God brothers, but he was also very broad-minded, he really wanted to assist. But at times he also, I think he wrote a letter to Puri Maharaj, where he kind of didn't really want to help him. But there were instances, but there was good reasons for that. Yeah. So and money is important, but it's also important to note that a devotee doesn't just go and meet people and just want to take out money, although that's required. And it could be looked differently, but money attracts money. And Srila Prabhupada told the story of a man who said that money attracts money. So the man went to the bank and the clerk was engaged in counting his money. So the man took his own money and put it on the top of the pile of the cash. He then stood, as Prabhupada said it, motionless, watching the money for a long time. And finally the clerk asked him, so what are you doing? So he said, I've heard that money attracts money. So I've thrown my money on the pile. Now I'm waiting for the whole cash to come to me. So yes, it's a fact. So the clerk said, well, that money attracts money. Now my money has attracted your money. So my money has attracted your money. So money, but a devotee, it's necessary at sometimes to, when we're doing projects, we require cash, and we may approach the person honestly to say, well, this is what we're doing, and with no ulterior motive, this is what we're doing and we'd like you to help. Also, the spiritual master is not pleased if you just bring him money, but he, is mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that he's pleased when a disciple is making advancement in Krishna consciousness. He's very pleased with that. And at one time, even Achyutananda visited, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's brother, Lalita Prasad, and there were a lot of, when they went there, Prabhupada was there present. Also, there were a lot of handwritten, letters and handwritten letters by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and Prabhupada at that time was there living at the birthplace of Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Birnagar, and Prabhupada said, we'll take care of you. We'll develop this place. It will become an international center. But the response he got, it was like a little shocking response. Yes, but I must be Guru. You must step down and I must be Acharya. And Prabhupada said, okay, and then they left. And then Prabhupada was conversing with Achyutananda, and he said, he couldn't believe it that he may have given up lust. That's maybe possible, and that's also very difficult. But the desire for prestige lingers on even till the end. It's very difficult to give up that. So then Achyutananda asked him, well, what broke up the Gaudiya Math? And I'll just read it. Prabhupada said, they were always worried who was going to give initiation. They couldn't wait a few years until a guru manifested. He said, my god brother were fighting over material properties and money. So yeah, we have to be careful, and we can learn from these different pastimes of Prabhupada and how he dealt with it and his realizations. So reading on, this verse for today, the verse for today's class described how Prahlad Maharaj was not disturbed by Lord Nrsingadev's killing of his father. Just as a saintly person is not disturbed by the killing of a snake or a scorpion. Srila Prabhupada retold an incident from his early involvement with the Gaudiya Math, which directly related to this verse. A sadhu does not want to kill even an ant. So I'll just paraphrase. So back in 1933, in the Gaudiya Math, there was a snake and Prabhupada was present, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was upstairs, and he ordered them to immediately kill the snake. He ordered them to immediately kill the snake. And Prabhupada at that time, as it was said, he was a newcomer. And he was thinking that how is it that, we're taking a life away, we're killing he's ordering to kill a snake. Then C.C. Raghunath ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. But then later when he was reading, about the teachings of Prahlad Maharaj and the Srimad Bhagavatam, then it said there that even a saintly person takes pleasure in a snake or a scorpion being killed. Even a saintly person does that. So why is it that we have to kill snakes and scorpions? What's the reason behind it? They represent envy. They're going to bite you anyway. So yeah, that was said here. Snakes are so envious, they will bite an innocent victim. Even without provocation, they are so cruel. But, there's more to it. It's talking about that the man can be more envious than the snake. Why? Because he has, developed consciousness. And he's practiced to use that developed consciousness by becoming jealous. So in that case, he is more dangerous than the snake. And it is said that, in different parts, and it's said in this particular diary that you can control a man, you can control a snake charmer can control the snake, but it's very difficult to control a human being. Because the envy is very deeply, it's there in the heart. Like sometimes we may appreciate somebody for their activities, but inwardly we're not so happy. Is that not true? I was discussing with one devotee was telling me that. Yeah, so inwardly he didn't, or she didn't feel like that. Outwardly we may do it. But if you genuinely appreciate other devotees, you'll become free from envy. That is the way to become actually free. When you genuinely appreciate, then you become free from it. Yeah. So then reading a little bit more, so Prahlad Maharaj said, "My Lord, nobody is unhappy, even the saintly person. We common man, we may be unhappy. Oh, my father is killed. Oh, my mother may be unhappy that my husband is killed. But be sure." No, I think there's something missing here. My father, yeah. Okay. I think so. All right. Yeah. So, we heard previously on topics of how to deal with, different devotees. If you meet a person that's more qualified than you, then you should become pleased. If you meet a person less qualified, then you become compassionate. I think Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu was talking about it. And then when you meet somebody equal to him, then he becomes friendly to the person. So we have to practice that. But generally, when we find somebody that's more qualified to them ourselves, then we definitely become envious of them. There's that envy. And we find some people who's less qualified, then we deride them. Or we find somebody who's equal to us, then we become very proud. So yes, in a purport of the 4th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th chapter, 34, it's mentioned, instead of being envious of a more qualified man, one should be jolly to receive him. Instead of being oppressive to a less qualified man, one should be compassionate toward him, just to raise him to the proper standard. And when one meets an equal, instead of being proud of one's own activities before him, one should treat him as a friend. One should also have compassion with the people in general who are suffering due to forgetfulness of Krishna. These important functions will make one happy within this material world. So if you have compassion, and I think the other day Madhurya was reading about the qualities of a sadhu and how the sadhu is affectionate or compassionate towards all living entities, including animals and other species or lower species of life. So we have to learn to do these things. And in the purport, in a purport which I heard so many times by Giriraj Maharaj, in a purport of the 7th canto, where he speaks about, Prabhupada writes towards the end of the purport, everyone should be friendly in the service of the Lord. Everyone should praise another service of the Lord and not be proud of his own service. This is the way of Vaishnava thinking, the Vaikuntha thinking. There may be rivalries and apparent competition between servants in performing service, but in the Vaikuntha planets, the service of another servant is appreciated, not condemned. This is Vaikuntha competition. There is no question of enmity between servants. Everyone should be allowed to render service to the Lord to the best of his ability, and everyone should appreciate the service of others. Such are the activities of Vaikuntha. So that is something that we also should be cognizant of, that everybody is trying to render some service and try to do your best, and if we're failing to do our best, we can consult with other devotees to help us in our devotional service. And even if one is failing, then Krishna from within his heart will give them the direction. And Prabhupada quoted that, and then he quoted that verse, Tesam satata yuktanam, bhajatam priti purvakam, dadami buddhi yogam tam, yena mam upayantite. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So Krishna will give that understanding. The other day we was at the campus, and one boy had come. He came to the temple. He got, devotee spoke to him, and he was, he appreciated it very much. And the other day we were there having our session, and he was appreciating, and he remembered what the devotee said him, but she didn't remember very much or not at all. But somehow Krishna directed him. He could remember. So sometimes the Lord, may make the preacher forget, and he may make the person or the devotee remember. So that happens. And he was so appreciative. And then the devotee spoke to him so eloquently. It was just so brilliantly. She was speaking. I was just in awe and remembering. Just appreciating the response. And I went, when I came back, I wrote it in my diary. I wrote in my diary that this whole incident. So it's we are, envy is there. Envy is there. And I was looking last night, and it's something that Bhatta Maharaj quite frequently quoted. And he was quoting from the, I think it was a Nectar of Instruction. And I'll read it. Such neophytes, unable to appreciate the exalted service of the advanced devotee, try to bring the Mahabhagavat to their platform. We experience such difficulty in propagating this Krishna consciousness all over the world. Unfortunately, we are surrounded by neophyte God brothers who do not appreciate the extraordinary activities of spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world. They simply try to bring us to their platform, and they try to criticize us in every respect. We very much regret their naive activities and poor fund of knowledge. An empowered person who is actually engaged in the confidential service of the Lord should not be treated as an ordinary human being, for it is stated that unless one is empowered by Krishna, one cannot spread the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. So that criticism may be there. Sometimes they criticize Prabhupada, oh, he was a businessman, that's why he was able to organize everything and do so well. But they do not know. And coming back to that point where a saintly person feels pleasure when a snake or a scorpion is killed, and that's very nicely described by Giriraj Maharaj's experience of that. And I'll just read a little bit about it. One Sunday, as I was walking to the streets in South Bombay, briefcase in hand, on my way to meet someone, I happened to stop for a moment by the Metro Cinema to look at the periodicals on sale along the sidewalk. Something I generally never did. Standing on the busy corner with traffic rushing from all directions, I glanced at the newspaper headlines. Big black bold letters jumped out from one front page. A.B. Nair dead. And directly under the headline was a photo of Mr. Nair. I couldn't believe it. A.B. Nair dead? How could it be? The paper was the Bharat Jyoti, the Sunday edition of Free Press Journal, where Naya had been an editor. I was jubilant. I felt like dancing in ecstasy. But then I wondered if that was the proper way for a Vaishnava to respond. I am supposed to be developing saintly qualities. I reflected, maybe I should be feeling sorry. Still, I could not contain my exultation, and I rushed back to our flat in Colaba to share the news. Bali Mardan, the most senior devotee there, suggested that we call Srila Prabhupada and went out to look for a phone. I decided I should go to Juhu. The devotees there had already heard the news and had been rejoicing and celebrating, chanting and distributing sweets. But I was still uncertain. Was this the proper way for Vaishnavas to behave? When Bali Mardan phoned Auckland to inform Prabhupada of Naya's death, the phone call came during Prabhupada's morning massage just before lunchtime. Shruti Kirti was sitting on the floor behind him, massaging his back with Tusta Krishna and Siddha Swarup nearby. Tusta Krishna took the call, and then Shruti Kirti came to the phone. After just a few minutes, Shruti Kirti ran back into the room. Srila Prabhupada, he said, that was Bali Mardan on the phone. He wanted to tell you that Mr. Naya is dead. Srila Prabhupada joined his hands together above his head as if in prayer. Oh, thank you, Krishna, he said. I pray that Krishna would kill him. He caused us so much difficulty. He gave so much trouble to the devotees. I was praying that Krishna would do something to this demon. And he quoted a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, that's what we were speaking about. Prahlad Maharaj said, even a saintly person becomes pleased when a snake or a scorpion is killed. Since Krishna killed him, is he liberated? Shruti Kirti asked. No, Prabhupada replied. He was not such a great demon. Krishna didn't come personally to kill him. As Shruti Kirti continued his massage, Prabhupada recounted some of the struggle and revealed more of his inner mood. The deities were installed on the property. He said, Mr. Naya had insulted Krishna by trying to remove him, and that I could not tolerate. So even a pure devotee is pleased when a snake or a scorpion is killed, or a demon like Mr. Naya, who gave the devotees a very hard time. And there's many other aspects to it, and there's many other devotees who got punishment. Who some of them died, and some of them were punished severely for being envious of Srila Prabhupada. And remember when we were in Juhu, there was a devotee of Sridhar Maharaj. There was a group of devotees, Sridhar Maharaj disciples, and Giriraj Maharaj was talking to them. And one girl was saying that she's like, she likes to beat everybody in book sales, and she's like kind of envious. But Giriraj Maharaj was saying that's a transcendental competition, and he brought her to understand that competition was good. To distribute more books, and that was okay. But then the girl said, actually we have bought Mr. Naya's house. The house that he built it. And then Giriraj Maharaj said, okay, that's another victory for us, for ISKCON. Yeah. So then, and Srila Prabhupada was always very happy to receive reports from his devotees. And during his massage, he had received 2 reports from Rupanuga, who enclosed a newspaper article describing a major victory in his attempts to preach in universities. Gabira Das in Washington, D.C., after a battle with the university authorities, has now been accepted as an authorized chaplain. He has now been given an office on the campus for counseling the students. Rukmini, have to work with this one. So, and Prabhupada was very pleased with it. And Srila Prabhupada was very, very happy to read the article. And he sent a letter to Gabira to congratulate him for his efforts. He took that time to do that because he was so happy because he really wanted to preach to university students, and and we are trying to do that, and it's amazing, it's really amazing to see these African students. They're so attracted to Krishna consciousness, much more than Indian people, much more, I think, much more. They're just so attracted to it, and they had such nice experiences, and on campus we find that the devotees have engaged a few of the boys. We got 2 boys, very helpful, Siabong and Samkelo. They're very helpful. They're serving the prasadam. It's such a nice way, and they're preaching to the people, buy the books, although they don't know very much about the books. And it's such a nice experience. And I told one of the boys, Samkelo, when you see an Indian person coming to take like a pack of prasadam, you tell him we need some spoons, we need some containers. So he told one person, and that person said, yes, I'll be happy to do it. Indian man, he said, when are you all coming? He was like insisting, we want to know when we're going to come back, so he wants to buy it and give it to us. So that is, he's preaching, so wonderful. And they sit and chant. It's really amazing. I'm glad that I can go at times and really appreciate it. And Prabhupada will be very pleased with these efforts. And Srila Prabhupada was very happy to read the article, and he sent a letter to Gabira to congratulate him for his efforts. Prabhupada sees this as an important breakthrough in our preaching work. He asked Rupanuga to continue to do the same in other universities. And to get some accommodation in the university is quite a challenge. You have to do some, go there and sit for hours, right? Who was sitting for hours? Rajaseviki? Rukmini? Or you sit for hours and you may have to do some singing, some chanting or whatever, and take so much of effort. But Prabhupada is pleased with your efforts, I think. Then a discussion of Ravindra Swarup, who's he's quite an intelligent devotee. He came here to South Africa and he went to the universities and also preached. You all met him, right? Ravindra Swarup Prabhu. He came to South Africa. So he had completed his PhD in religion, and Prabhupada was also pleased to hear that. And then he told, we need many PhDs for the new Bhaktivedanta Institute. So he was not against people studying, but and I also appreciate when people have qualifications, and also, Rukmini informed me that could be a drawback also, having qualifications. And Prabhupada sometimes said, university degrees are useless or something like that, not so useful. He also said that. But he is appreciating, And then he said, as far as the temples, Rupanuga Prabhu's zone are concerned, they all seem to be going well, with significant increases in book distribution. So that's another thing that we have to, because book distribution means we're giving knowledge to people. And I was just thinking, it's so important to do book distribution, give out some literature. And this is interesting. Even within the courts in Atlanta, the devotees have won respect for their preaching activities. He told Prabhupada that a federal court judge there had remarked that he had never during his history on the bench, just like a legal term, the bench, seen such religious fervor. Religious fervor means like enthusiasm. That's the actual translation, I think, or meaning. Religious fervor. The judge said that it was a new phenomenon in America, and he did not know exactly how to deal with it. We have had preachers, the judge said, but these people are at it 12 hours per day, 365 days a year. I've never seen anything like it. So our devotees are like that. They could preach for hours on end, especially when you're just walking, and sometimes we get so carried away. We're just walking, One day Krishna Chaitanya, we're just walking and meeting people, and we met so many people who have left our movement, people who have, little interested, really different experiences we had. Christian people interested, from different faiths. Yeah. So, okay, there's so much to discuss, but we are at 8:24. I'll just read this last paragraph, and if you have any questions or comments you'd like to raise, please raise it. Okay, yeah. In Washington, the temple presently received an inheritance. Apparently, his idea is to use it to provide security for his wife and family, freeing himself for preaching. Prabhupada did not think much of the idea. I think he should follow the example of Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami took sannyas and gave 50% in charity, 25% for family use, and he kept 25% for emergency. Krishna wants to see that the life is sacrificed, but also accumulation of money should be given to Krishna. And then he said, life is for Krishna and money is for wife is not a good decision. So, it's like some people, they leave their money at home and they go to the beach to Vrindavan to chant. So, So, then does anybody have any questions or comments? Anybody like to comment on anything? Okay, then I'll just talk about Yamuna Devi and we conclude because I got 4 minutes more. So another letter arrived from Yamuna, and she wanted to develop like a cow protection program. The impression that was given, they wanted to actually run an ashram along the lines of a big temple. But Prabhupada, in his reply, he said, this is too difficult for women to engage in large-scale cow protection. He recommended they keep programs small and manageable with just a few cows for offering milk and sweets to the deities. He explained that expansion means they will have to take help from men. Therefore, he reiterated instructions he had given them previously. Simply keep yourself aloof from men. Chanting many more times as possible, read books, worship the deity. And then he concluded by saying, a widow is forbidden to use ornaments, nice sari decoration, combing the hair nicely. These are forbidden for a woman who is not with husband. So in India, that system is followed, by conservative families, and then the widow could not marry. There was no widow marriage in India, in Prabhupada's time. So why widow marriage is prohibited? because there's a larger female population than male population. So once you're married, you have already been given that opportunity, otherwise you'll deny a virgin girl. This is quite interesting. Therefore there was no Hindu marriage. That was according to, I think, the Manu Samhita. Yeah. And there was there's different rules, like a lady who's married, she would have to have her hair parted and sindoor in the center like that. When the husband is away and the wife doesn't dress so attractively, but when the husband is home, she can dress attractively for the husband. And and sometimes the parting on the side, on this side, it means that person is a society girl or a prostitute. So there's different, sometimes I've seen devotees also have it on the side, but in India, that's kind of not appreciated. Yeah, and this sindoor means that the lady is married. So there's different ways to make out who's a married person, when the husband is home, when the husband is not home. So the Vedic system, it was very nice. Even in 40, 50, 60 years back, the women would not come in the front of the house. I don't know, maybe Rukmini, Is that correct? Yeah, they wouldn't interact with the friends of the husband. That was not the way it was. Now you go take a hug and do so many things. But anyway, so many things are done. But even in Indian families, even I remember even my own parents were like that. Yeah. So thank you very much. We'll stop here. Hare Krishna. It's exactly 8:30. Hare Krishna.